Hello everyone, welcome to the preview video for the PMC Lesson 1. So in Lesson 1, we are going to solve some problems related to fractions, percentages, and also ratio. So before that, we have to learn about how to calculate parts and a whole using fraction and percentages. And also we have to know about the concept of ratio. So let's start to introduce something related to fractions. So we want to tell you how to find out a part from a whole. So what is 2/5 of 20? Usually we use the bar model to understand what is 2/5 of 20. So when we are having 2/5 of a numbers, it means I want to cut that numbers into 5 equal parts. Okay, so for example, this bar represents 20. I want to cut this bar into 5 equal parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 slices, then it should be 5 pieces, right? So there we have 5 equal pieces. Okay, so I want to take 2 pieces out of these 5 pieces. So 2/5 of 20 will be this part. So I want to know the value of this part. How can I do it? So because these 5 sections, they are equal. So each section is 20 divided by 5, right? So 20 divided by 5, each section is 4. And I take 2 sections out of these 5. So I want 2 of them, so I multiply it by 2. And after the calculation, you will find that 20 divided by 5 equals to 4. 4 times 2 equals to 8, right? So 2/5 of 20 is actually 8. So that is the bar model. How can I calculate a part from a whole? You can divide it, the denominator, and then you multiply the numerator. But if you're really familiar with fractions, you will find out that actually 20 divided by 5 times 2 is the same as 20 times 2 divided by 5. And 2 divided by 5 in fraction, it is just 20 times 2 out of 5, right? So whenever you want to find a part from a whole, you can use the whole to multiply the corresponding fraction, okay, the corresponding fraction. Then you will find out the part. Get it? So just 20 times 2 out of 5 equals to 8. And how do you multiply fractions? Basically, you do the simplification first. 20 divided by 5, 1 and 4 times 2. You will get the answer 8 as well. Okay, it is also 8. Perfect. So there are two methods. You can either use the bar model to divide by 5 and then multiply by 2. Or if you're very familiar with fractions, you can just do 20 times 2 out of 5. Get it? So this is how we find out the part from a whole. So let's do some exercise. What is 5/7 of 14? So you can use bar model or you can use fractions. I can do both. So for bar model, basically you draw a bar. So maybe this is the bar. You cut the bar into how many equal pieces? Into 7 equal pieces, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here we have 7 pieces and you get 5 pieces out of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So because the whole bar is 14 and you cut it into 7 equal pieces, so each piece is 14 divided by 7 equals to 2, and you get 5 pieces, right? So you multiply by 5. So the answer becomes 10. So 5/7 of 14 is basically 10. Or you can just multiply with fraction. So the whole is 14, right? And the corresponding fraction is 5 out of 7. So after you do the simplification, you will also get 2 times 5 equals to 10. So they have the same, actually they are the same thing. Get it? So that's how you find out a part from a whole. And we can also find the whole from a part as well. Okay, so how can I find the whole from a part? So in this question, it's asked, it is given that 2/5 of a number is 20. What is that number? So because 2/5 of that number is 20, so the number must be greater than 20, right? So how can I find back the numbers? You can also use the bar model to help you. So 2/5 of that number. So I try to find out what is this number. So just let this bar to be that number. If I cut this bar into 5 equal pieces, like what we have just done, and I take 2 parts out of it, it is 20. So this is the meaning. So when I cut the number into 5 equal pieces and I take 2 parts out of it, this part is 20. So what is the whole part? We can use the same method. So because 20 represents 2 parts, right? So we can do 20 divided by 2 to get the value of 1 part. And 1 part is basically 10. So how many parts are there in total? 5 parts. So I can multiply it by 5, right? I can multiply it by 5. So after that, we can find out the answer. The answer is basically 50. 50 is the number, right? So this is the bar model. This is the bar model. So how can you find out the whole from a part? You use the part 20 divided by the numerator and then multiplied it by the denominator. So that's how you find it. But if you are really familiar with fractions, you will notice that this is actually equals to what? This is actually equals to 20 times 5 divided by 2, which means it is 20 times 5 out of 2. And 20 times 5 out of 2 is 20 divided by 2 out of 5, right? So we have another equation that is, if you want to find out a whole from a part, it is the part divided by its corresponding fraction equals to the whole. Okay, so the part is 20, the corresponding fraction is 2 out of 5. So 20 divided by 2 out of 5 equals to 50. Okay, so if you get it, then we can use this method to calculate this question again. 3/7 of a number is 15. What is the number? So again, I can use 2 methods to do it. For bar model method, we just draw a bar. And when I cut this number into 7 equal pieces, and I take 3 out of it, it is 15, right? So this part is 15. So what is the value of 1 part? It will be 15 divided by 3 equals to 5, right? So each of them is 5. So there are 7 parts in total, so you multiply by 7. So you get 5 times 7 equals to 35. So the whole number is actually 35. Get it? So you can also use fraction. The fraction is, the part is 15, right? The part is 15. So we do 15, and you divide it by the corresponding fraction, 3 out of 7. When we divide a number, when we divide a fraction, it is actually equals to multiplying its reciprocal. Reciprocal means you have to turn the fractions upside down. So the denominator becomes the numerator becomes the denominator. And after that, you can do the calculation. 3 and 15 can be cancelled out. 3 becomes 1, 15 becomes 5. So it is just 5 times 7 equals to 35. You will get the same answer. Get it? So basically, this is how you find out the whole from a part. And we also learned how to find out the part from the whole as well. Okay, so I want you to be really familiarized with that before the lesson. And after that, we will talk about something very easy, that is percentage. So what does percentage mean? So percentage is basically fractions with a specific denominator. So if the denominator is 100, then it is a percentage. Okay, for example, what is 1%? 1% is just 1 out of 100. So this tiny block is 1 out of 100. So this is 1%. 1% means 1 with the denominator 100. Okay, so what is 21%? Then it is 21 with the denominator 100. 21 out of 100. Get it? So I want to represent the colored part with something out of 100. So we can count it. One column is 10, so we have 10, 10, 10, 35, right? Here we have 5. So it is 35 out of 100. Then what is the percentage? 35%. So percentage is really easy. It is just a specific fractions with 100 as a denominator. Get it? So whenever you see percentage, you can just change it into fractions easily. Great. And finally, we learned about ratio. So ratio is actually the hardest, I think. So what is a ratio? For example, A to B equals to 5 to 2. What does that mean? It means if A is 5 blocks, then B must be 2 blocks. Okay, it is the comparison of two things. You compare the size of two things. If A is 5, then B is 2. That's basically ratio. But does that mean that A equals to 2 and A equals to 5 and B equals to 2? And not really. It is relative. So for example, if A is 5, then B is 2, right? But if I doubled A, if I make A into, for example, 10, okay, if I make A into 10, so I can add one more grid, two more grid, three grid, four grid, and 10 grid. So now we have 10 grids right here, right? So we make 5 into 10. But we can't really just double A because the relationship between A and B is they have to stay 5 to 2. So if I doubled A, you have to double B as well. So after you doubled B, you will also get 10, you will get 10 to 4. Okay, you will get 10 to 4. And actually 10 to 4 have the same meaning as 5 to 2. So when there are 5 blocks, B must be 2 blocks. And if there are 10 blocks, there must be 4 blocks. So the relationship is the same. So 5 out of 2 is the same as 10 out of 4. If you don't get it, it doesn't really matter. I can show you another example. For example, if I have a shopping bag, okay, so just imagine this is a shopping bag. I buy 5 apples. Okay, I buy 5 apples. And I also buy 2 oranges. Then the number of apples to the number of oranges is 5 to 2, right? It's 5 to 2. So this is a ratio. 5 apples always comes with 2 oranges. That is the ratio. But what if I buy 2 bags? Then how many apples are there? There will be 10 apples, right? There will be 10 apples because 5 times 2 equals to 10. So how about the number of oranges? It will be 2 times 2 equals to 4, right? So the relationship between apples and orange doesn't actually change, but the total absolute numbers change, right? So 10 to 4 is the same as 5 to 2. So it means whenever there are 5 apples, there must be 2 oranges. So if there are 10 apples, there will be 4 oranges. Get it? So you can see that a ratio, there is equivalent ratio, just like equivalent fractions. 5 to 2 is the same as 10 to 4 is the same as 15 to 6. Okay, 15 to 6. You can multiply same numbers on both sides to get the equivalent fraction. If you get it, then I can show you another example. So you can also think of ratio as this way. So A to B means 5 to 2. It means A is always 5 blocks and B is always 2 blocks. But the value of each box may not be the same. So maybe this one is just all of them is 1, then it is 5 to 2, right? But maybe one block is actually 2, then it would be 10 to 4, right? But they have the same structure. It is 5 blocks to 2 blocks. And you can also make it into 3. It doesn't matter. It is 15 to 6. So 5 to 2, 10 to 4, 15 to 6, they are all the same. They have the same meaning. 5 to 2. Get it? Okay, so if you get it, then you can see that we can link two ratios together. Okay, for example, A to B is 5 to 2, right? It's 5 to 2. And I also tell you that A to C is 5 to 3. Then what is the ratio of A to B to C? This is really simple because A to B is 5 to 2, right? So whenever there are 5A, there will be 2B. That's the meaning. And now A to C is actually what? It's actually 5 to 3, right? So whenever there are 5A, there will be 3C. So A, B, and C, the relationship is just 5A come with 2B and come with 3C. So it is 5 to 2 to 3. So if there is one number that is in common, you can link up the two ratio. So 5 to 2 to 3. But not all the ratios are actually very nice. So some ratios, they don't have common numbers. For example, in the second question, we have A to B equals to 5 to 6, right? But you have B to C equals to 3 to 1. So there are no same numbers. There are no common numbers. So what should we do? What should we do? We can actually create the common numbers, right? Because you can clearly see that 3 can turn into 6. I can multiply the 3 by 2. But because the equivalent ratio, do you remember, we have to multiply both numbers by 2. So after that, we can see that 3 to 1 is actually the same as 6 to 2. And then we can link up the ratio. So whenever there are 5A, there will be 6B. And whenever there are 6B, there will be 2C. So it becomes 5 to 6 to 2. That is ratio. Perfect. So sometimes it gets even more tricky. That is question 3. So A to B, it is 3 to 2. Okay, but B to C is also 3 to 2. So there are no common numbers between these two ratios, right? Because the 3 represent B in this equation, but the 2 represent B in this equation. So there are no common numbers. So how can I do it? Because we have learned about the lowest common multiple, right? So 2 and 3, after you multiply by something, they will become the same numbers. So we can use the lowest common multiple to help us. So what is the lowest common multiple of 2 and 3? It is 6, right? So I can turn both 2 and 3 into 6. So let's do the first one, A to B. I want to make this 2 into 6. What should I do? I can multiply this by 3 and also multiply this number by 3, right? So I want to make this 3 into 2. What should I do? I multiply this by 2 and also multiply this 2 by 2. And after that, what do we get? We can see that A to B is actually equals to 9 to 6, right? 9 to 6. And B to C is equals to 6 to 4. So now these are equivalent fractions, equivalent ratios, so the meaning is still the same, but we can now link up the ratio. So A to B to C is 9A comes with 6B comes with 4C. So we have 9 to 6 to 4. Get it? So that is ratio. We can link up ratio. So I want you to watch this video again and again before the class start because the content will be quite difficult. So make sure you understand ratio, fractions, and percentage before the class. Okay, so I will see you in the class.